It's a terrible form of abuse when whole families gang up on one person. Sometimes it's scapegoating, where they blame you for problems you never caused. Sometimes it's just plain bullying and cruelty, and of course it leaves terrible wounds, even when you know the abuse was about them, not about you, and even when you've worked hard to create a good life for yourself. You can end up feeling disconnected from people, unworthy. If this is you, I want you to let in that other people's abuse doesn't define you, and healing is possible. My letter today is from a woman I'll call Amelia, and she writes, "Dear crappy childhood fairy, I'm finding it so hard to connect with people. As a child, when I started thinking of myself and expressing opinions that were different from my mother when I was around 10 years old, she started to get really angry with me because I was outspoken." I've got my fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things I want to come back to on a second reading, but let's go through and see what's happening for Amelia. All right, she says, sometimes she wouldn't talk to me for weeks in the house and would move away if I tried to kiss her because she'd say I was a traitor for not taking her side against other people. Whew. Only 3 weeks ago, she refused to talk to me because I was unwilling to badmouth someone with her. One of my sisters was with her and was extremely happy to see that. That sister has always been emotionally and sometimes physically abusive toward me. When I was 12, she started telling me no one would like me. Over the years, she progressed to telling me everyone, including men I date, would leave me, and that there's just something about me that people will find unlikable, and that people, wherever I work, are trying to get rid of me. The two of them did a great job of isolating me from people, raging at me whenever I had friends and telling me they only want to use me, and telling me I'm basically a fool for not leaving the friends I had. Well, now I have no friends at all, and while I do go to a couple groups on a weekly basis, I've experienced so much rejection I literally cannot bring myself to try to talk to people when I'm there. I completely shut down even though the people seem quite friendly. I don't date, though I'd like to. I struggle financially because I always get jobs paying far less than I could make. My sisters would get so angry when something good would happen to me, and now I feel like my life is this tiny little box where I watch the world being so alive without me. I tried a 12-step before, and it was not a good experience, so I left. Where do I start? How do I find the life I was robbed of, and now at age 56, I so desperately want? Okay, Amelia, I'm so sorry this happened to you. That's terrible. This is abuse. Your family abused you, and the fact that they ganged up on you, I don't know why that is, but it multiplies the negative impact. I think a kid or a young person, to a large degree, if one person is abusive, like the mother, and other people are okay, you have a little bit of a buffer on that. But when it was your mother and your sister and just total gaslighting about how worthless you are, that would be hard to resist. I'm really sorry. I'm sure that we could diagnose them with 7 different disorders for behaving this way. Among other things, they're sadistic. They seem to take pleasure in hurting you. So, I really hope you're not in contact with those people anymore. I am like the last person who's like, cut people out of your life, but these people need to be cut. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. So it sounds like you have perspective that what they did was wrong and that you didn't deserve it. But also, you're very deep in this social isolation, like a social freeze here. And I'm so proud of you that you wrote to me, because you're saying that you shut down, that you almost cannot talk to people, and yet you shared your story with me and with everyone here. And what I would like everybody in the comments to do is, if you relate to Amelia in getting bullied like this and feeling shut down and stuck and cut off from connection with people in your life, would you please say something in the comments to her, something encouraging? I think it's really common. So we at least have the comfort of knowing, you know, you're not crazy, Amelia, you're normal, you're having normal symptoms. You're having a normal reaction to something that really is abnormal to happen to kids and shouldn't have happened. But here we are. We're like the club of people who things that shouldn't have happened did happen, and we're learning how to heal anyway. So I think it's tremendously promising that you wrote such a clear-headed letter about what's going on. Here's what happened. Here's the behavior. So you'd like to date, but you don't. You go to a couple groups, but You've had so much rejection, you literally can't bring yourself to talk to other people when you're there. And, you know, it has, unfortunately, when you're walking around with a lot of fear that you're not good enough and that other people don't want you there, it has a way of becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes like a vibe. People can sense it. And I don't know anything about how you present yourself, but often when people are feeling this rejected, they kind of wear it. They wear it in a drabness, a utilitarian appearance maybe, where instead of enjoying themselves and dressing in clothes that make them happy or make them feel attracted, they're sort of dressing for, you know, to get everybody's attention off. I don't know if that's you, but if it is, one of the first things that I suggest you do is that you go buy some clothes, even if it's at a thrift store. Personally, I think thrifting is one of the funnest things there is to do. And buying clothes that are colorful, that you maybe don't know yet if you feel good in them, but you're going to give them a try. It's only thrifting. If you can get a shirt for $8, you get a shirt for $8 and wear some color and wear something that fits you well and makes you feel better about your appearance. And so if you're like many people, you're 56, I'm a little bit older than you. I totally know that it's natural to not feel like we're pretty enough or good enough, and maybe you have that too because they certainly drilled it into you. But you know what? What is so freeing about getting kind of over 50? It's like, well, you know, it's kind of at this point, you're never going to look like an ingenue, so you get to look like yourself, and yourself gets to be colorful and expressive. And I really encourage you to do that, to start being yourself. Now, yes, this could suggest to other people that you're open for conversation. So I realize that might be a vulnerable place for you. That vulnerability of connecting with people and feeling triggered by them is an almost universal trigger for people who were traumatized as kids. And what we end up doing is avoiding them. And I just hear you, you're kind of in a deep avoidance here. But there's this pessimism here, and I want to try to press on it a little bit, where you say, I tried a 12-step before, and it wasn't a good experience, so I left. So I've been to like so many 12-step meetings, and some of them were just awful. Some of them were just awful, and the people bullied me or gossiped about me, and some of them were absolutely life-saving and wonderful. You know, you get what you pay for. But there's something so powerful about people who voluntarily get together to work on themselves. And your isolation and your history of being bullied by your family, you know, and sort of narcissistically abused, is you are not alone. And 12-step rooms are a place where, for virtually no money, it's free if you want it to be, you can contribute a little money if you care to when they pass the basket. But you get to be there and be with other people who totally understand what you're going through. And you don't have to say a word. You can go and just sit and listen for a while, and you can spend 6 months. When I first started going to 12-step, I was very talkative, and I had a lot of story to unpack, and I would cry every time I shared. And then I started feeling better, and then I started sponsoring other women, and I was a pillar of the community. And then when my first marriage busted up and I was bitter and felt like, what was all this for? Now my life is terrible. I have kids and no money, and it ended up being just fine. Just heads up, it was fine. But I got bitter and I abandoned my 12-step life, and I didn't go for a couple years. I wasn't using my daily practice techniques that I teach here. And I was just like, this is all BS. I'm going to just be like everybody else. And gradually, slowly, not quickly at first, but then it happens quickly, I sort of slid back into my old patterns, and soon my life was extremely messed up, and I was isolating. And I had to come back. And when I first went back to the Al-Anon meetings, for the first 6 months, I didn't believe in it. I didn't like anybody. I didn't feel safe, but I didn't really have a better idea for how to bring myself out of this terrible sort of inner lockdown that I was in, of just basically feeling like everyone hated me and I hated them. And, you know, like, you see me now, you kind of know, like, that's not really who I am, but that's what I'm like when my trauma is untreated. It gets pretty bad. So I want you to give it a try. I like 12-step. It doesn't have to be 12-step, but it is free and it's all over the place. And you certainly qualify for at least ACA, maybe Al-Anon, I don't know. Maybe CODA, or, you know, for anybody who has alcoholism or a problem with drugs or substances. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about the existence of these fellowships of people who are following a common program to recover that's got some good principles about how to be a good person and how to straighten out your life. Like, That was always what I needed. It was very helpful to me. And then, it's been more than that for me. More of my healing has come. When I discovered what complex PTSD is, my healing progressed quite a bit. And it was an outside issue there, so I didn't go back. I seldom go to meetings anymore. But I have very, very good opinion of the value of going. I went for 25 years. I sponsored 300 women. And then that sort of grew into Crappy Childhood Fairy, and it's a different thing. I never thought my life was going to get bigger. I really thought that the hard stuff that had happened and the way that I struggled with people was always going to be nothing but a liability and something that I would have to find a way to encase in cement so that it didn't infect everything in my life. But that hasn't been the case. It turns out I got to blossom into my real self. I'm still a person who had those experiences and who sometimes revisits that frame of mind. And that's part of who I am now. And that's actually part of why my YouTube channel is successful, is because it's real, because people recognize that we're connected, that we understand each other. And so I didn't expect that. I didn't have a framework to see that there was a place for me in this life where I got to be me. And how nice that there is. And there is for you too. And for you to find it, you'll have to come out of this pessimism, the pessimism that's protecting you from dealing with people. See, people are triggering, and if we don't have a way to calm our triggers and to cope with the neurological dysregulation that gets set off from being around people, if we don't have that, it's very tempting to treat it by isolating. You can make the dysregulation stop. It's just that it's very, very lonely. So I encourage you to keep going. You'd sure be welcome in my membership program. There's always a link to that down in the description section below each video. There's some words at the top and a button that says more, and you click it and the whole thing opens up and you can see all these links, or you can go to my website, Crappy Childhood Fairy, see if there's something for you, or 12-step, and there's always therapy and groups and things like that, meetups. I don't know. See, I say that, but I don't think I would ever go to something like that. It has to be a little bit more targeted for me to feel good. So I encourage you to keep trying. I want to leave you with a quiz that I created listing signs that your ability to connect was injured by what happened to you. And I want you to think about that it's an injury so that you start to understand it's not your natural personality, it's an injury. And we know this because it's such a common symptom pattern in so many of us. So I just call it the Connection Quiz. You can download your copy free right there. And I will see you very soon.